The battle for Willow Lake, a grandfather's revenge. The air was thick with the scent of pine and betrayal on that crisp Michigan morning in 2024. Henry Caldwell, a 72-year-old Vietnam veteran, stood frozen on the porch of his lakeside cabin, his weathered hands trembling as he traced the bubbling scars on the oak door. The words "Forever Home H&E 1994," carved by his late wife, Ellen, 30 years ago, were now a melted ruin, destroyed by industrial acid. Standing in the driveway, Margaret Kessler, the ruthless president of the Willow Lake Homeowners Association, smirked, her laughter cutting through the silence like a blade. She thought she could bully a grieving widower off his land, but she had no idea who she was dealing with. Henry's cabin, nestled on 5 acres of pristine lakefront, was more than a home. It was a monument to his life with Ellen. They'd built it together in 1994, every beam a testament to their love, every nail driven with purpose. The door, Ellen's pride, bore their initials and the year they'd retired early to create their dream. She'd spent weeks sanding and staining it, practicing her script in secret to surprise Henry on their 30th anniversary. "This is our promise," she'd told their grandson, Ethan, during one of those golden summers, teaching him to fish. "This place will always be here for family." But Margaret had other plans. Backed by Pinnacle Resorts, a shady development company, she wanted Henry's land for a luxury golf course. 3 months earlier, the harassment began with a letter from the newly formed Willow Lake HOA, listing 47 fabricated violations, everything from the cabin's natural cedar siding to the oak trees Ellen had named after her grandchildren. Fines of $2,000 a day loomed unless Henry rebuilt his home to their absurd standards. He'd laughed it off at first, thinking it a prank. But the letters grew nastier, threatening legal action and forced sale. Then came Margaret herself, rolling up in a gleaming SUV, dripping in fake jewelry and clutching a knockoff purse. "Your shack is tanking our property values," she sneered, quoting non-existent bylaws. "I'll give you $200,000 to get rid of this eyesore." Henry, who'd buried Ellen on the hill overlooking the lake 2 years prior, fixed her with a steely gaze. "Ellen's up there, watching the water she loved. No money in the world will make me leave her or this home." Margaret's face twisted with rage, and she stormed off, vowing to make his life hell. The harassment escalated. Mysterious utility outages hit, which Henry countered with solar panels and a new well. Then Margaret's son, Derek, a 29-year-old leech living in her basement, began dumping trash on the property and spray painting slurs on the trees. But the acid attack was the final straw. Ethan, who'd been distant, streaming video games in Detroit and rarely visiting, was there that morning. Seeing his grandfather cry over the ruined door shifted something in him. Memories of summers baking pies with Ellen and fixing trucks with Henry flooded back. He knew he had to step up. Security footage, captured by Henry's hidden cameras, showed Derek and his buddies pouring acid on the door at 3 a.m., laughing like jackals. Ethan's blood boiled, but Henry studied the tape with a calm that unnerved him. "Ethan, call your girlfriend at City Hall," Henry said, his voice steady. "See if she can pull the HOA's papers. And grab the shovels. We've got work to do." Confused, Ethan asked what the shovels were for. Henry's smile was cold, unlike anything Ethan had seen. "We're digging their grave legally, of course. Ellen taught me revenge is best served cold and within the law." Ethan called Sarah, his girlfriend, at the city clerk's office. Within hours, she uncovered a bombshell. The HOA was fraudulent, lacking the required 60% homeowner signatures. Worse, Margaret was promised $50,000 by Pinnacle Resorts to force Henry out, plus a cut of future profits. Pinnacle was owned by Vincent Moretti, a name that darkened Henry's face. "The Moretti family's been after this lake for decades," he said. "They're organized crime dressed as corporate suits." That afternoon, while setting up new security, Ethan found a wooden box in a closet filled with Medalsa Bronze Star, a tunnel rat badge, and photos of a young Henry teaching soldiers to build traps in Vietnam. A notebook detailed non-lethal trap designs, with notes like, "Teach, don't kill." A 1970 newspaper clipping called him the Phantom Trapper of Key San, a legend for capturing enemies with psychological warfare and ingenuity. "You were the Phantom Trapper?" Ethan asked, awestruck. Henry nodded grimly. I swore I'd never use those skills again. But they've pushed me too far. Henry sketched a map of their 800-meter private road, dividing it into 7 zones. Zone 1's psychological sound and light to disorient, he explained. Each zone escalates, legal but uncomfortable, until Zone 7 teaches them never to mess with a Caldwell. Sarah called with more intel. Margaret planned a fake HOA meeting on Tuesday at 7 a.m. to photograph the property for seizure proceedings. With 36 hours to prepare, Henry dubbed it Operation Quagmire, his grin making him look decades younger. Tuesday morning dawned with a light rain, perfect for Henry Caldwell's plan. A misty fog rolled off Willow Lake, cloaking the private road in an eerie haze that made the trees look like sentinels guarding a battlefield. At exactly 7 a.m., Margaret Kessler's SUV led a convoy of HOA board members onto Henry's property, ignoring the massive sign reading Private Property. Enter at your own risk, Caldwell's domain. Her son, Derek, sat in the passenger seat, phone ready to record their evidence. 3 board members crammed in the back, including a nervous accountant named Leonard, who mumbled about needing a warrant. Margaret silenced him with a glare and a sharp slap to Derek's shoulder. I make the rules here, she snarled. That old fool's about to learn his place. They had no idea they were driving into a masterpiece of legal vengeance. As their SUV crossed the first marker, Zone 1 erupted. 15 military surplus speakers hidden in the pines blared the snarls of rabid dogs, mixed with Henry's pre-recorded voice booming. Trespassers will be trapped at 140 decibels. Margaret swerved, spilling her cheap coffee over her knockoff dress. Derek's face paled, his bravado crumbling. Strobe lights flashed in disorienting patterns, creating the illusion of being surrounded by a pack of beasts. Leonard clutched his briefcase, already regretting his compliance. At the 100-meter mark, Zone 2 Henry's Disco Inferno kicked in. 30 LED strobes, in legal yellow to avoid impersonating emergency lights, pulsed at 20 Hz, a frequency Henry had researched to maximize disorientation without harming epileptics. Fog machines, borrowed from Ethan's gaming setup, reduced visibility to near zero, while sprinklers originally installed for Ellen's Roses sprayed ice-cold water, rendering the SUV's wipers useless. Derek groaned. Mom, I don't feel good. Let's go back. Margaret screamed. Man up, as Leonard vomited into his briefcase, and another board member prayed aloud for salvation. Zone 3, dubbed Stink Bomb Alley, introduced a stench so vile it could peel paint. Industrial misters sprayed a mix of pig manure and fermented fish emulsion, sourced from Sarah's uncle's bait shop. The odor seeped into the SUV, clinging to upholstery and clothes. Margaret gagged, her makeup streaming down her face like a bad watercolor. Derek sobbed, mourning his knockoff designer outfit, now reeking of failure. The board members were a mess, their dignity shredded by the relentless assault. Zone 4 seemed innocent at first, with rubber speed bumps forcing Margaret to weave predictably. But hidden in the blind spots were military-grade tire spikes, legally purchased for private property use. All 4 of the SUV's expensive tires began hissing, slowly deflating. Derek screamed, Mom, the tires. They're all flat. Margaret tried to power through, the rims grinding into the road, leaving scars that would mark their trespass for months. The vehicle lurched, barely mobile, as the group's panic deepened. Zone 5 was a tangle of wild roses, trained by Henry over weeks along nearly invisible aircraft cable and barbed wire, marked with garden trellis, do not touch signs to ensure legality. Derek, desperate to check the tires, climbed out and immediately snagged his suit on the thorns. The fabric tore with a satisfying rip, leaving him in muddy rags. He turned to Margaret, pleading, Mom, this is crazy. We're going to get in trouble. Her response was a slap, so loud that Ethan heard it from their observation post 200 meters away. Man up, you pathetic excuse. Or find somewhere else to live, she shrieked. Zone 6 offered false hope a clear, well-maintained stretch with arrow signs pointing forward. Margaret's shoulders relaxed, thinking they'd survived. But the road was a trap. Fine sand concealed a water-filled pit, excavated with Henry's engineering precision to trap vehicles without drowning them. The SUV, limping on flat tires, sank to its doors, the engine sputtering as water flooded the intake. Steam rose from the hood, a symbol of their defeat. Zone 7 was Henry's crescendo, an 8-foot wide, 3-foot deep mud pit filled with bentonite clay, soil, and water, creating a quicksand-like sludge with cement-like adhesion. As Margaret tried to reverse, the SUV slid deeper, wheels spinning uselessly. Automated nozzles, modified from the irrigation system, sprayed a mix of mud and organic fertilizer, coating the vehicle and its occupants in a humiliating layer of Caldwell hospitality. Derek, attempting to flee, fell face-first into the muck, crying, "Mommy, I can't see," as he flailed, making it worse. Sheriff Tom Reynolds arrived 15 minutes after Margaret's hysterical 911 call, claiming they were under terrorist attack. He surveyed the posted signs and legal garden installations, suppressing a grin. "Looks like you need a tow," he drawled. "On private property without permission, that's $500 cash for the specialty equipment to extract you from agricultural enhancement materials. Or, as we say, you're stuck in the mud for trespassing." Henry appeared, sipping coffee from his Marine Corps mug, the picture of innocence. Within hours, videos from Henry's cameras exploded online, racking up millions of views. Derek's muddy meltdown became a meme, set to everything from pop songs to dramatic movie scores. Comments flooded in. "Derek crying is my new ringtone," and "Grandpa said mess around and find out." News outlets picked up the story of the 72-year-old veteran who defended his home with legal ingenuity, making Henry a folk hero. Ethan had secretly planted a camera on Derek's jacket the night before, capturing first-person footage that looked like a horror movie where karma was the monster. Margaret's attempts at damage control backfired. Her lawyers, reviewing the evidence, refused the case, one bluntly stating, "You drove past warning signs onto private property. Henry could sue you for the acid attack, a federal crime." Desperate, Margaret called Vincent Moretti, screaming, "You promised easy money, but now I'm a laughingstock, and my son's a meme." The community rallied, with 150 of 200 households petitioning to oust Margaret from the HOA. Clara Thompson, an 82-year-old former nurse, formed the Willow Lake Senior Guardians, camping on Henry's porch with a casserole and a shotgun. "Nobody messes with Henry," she declared. "He fixed my roof when Joe was sick. I'll be damned if some tyrant drives him out." The fallout from the Great Quagmire incident was immediate, but Margaret Kessler wasn't done. Her humiliation only fueled her vendetta against Henry Caldwell, and the stakes were about to skyrocket. As the sun set on Willow Lake, the community buzzed with newfound solidarity, but a darker threat loomed. Ethan, now fully committed to his grandfather's fight, sat with Henry in the cabin's kitchen, the scent of Ellen's old recipe books still lingering in the air. They reviewed the viral footage, planning their next move. Henry's calm was unnerving, his eyes scanning a legal pad like a general plotting a campaign. "They won't stop," he said. "People like Margaret don't quit until they hit a wall they can't climb. I'm that wall." Sarah's investigation deepened, and her voice trembled when she called Ethan from her car, checking her mirrors for tails. "The FBI's been tracking the Moretti family for 6 months, she whispered. "They're laundering money through fake HOAs and resort companies across 3 states. Your situation could crack their network wide open, but this isn't just about Margaret anymore. We're dealing with organized crime." Her words hung heavy. The acid attack, the harassment, it was all part of a larger scheme to force out stubborn homeowners like Henry for profit. That night, the threat became physical. 5 local thugs, hired by Derek on Margaret's orders, struck at midnight. Bricks shattered the cabin's windows, and red paint spelled "sell" or "burn" across the garage door. Ethan wanted to call the police, but Henry, eerily calm, examined the damage like a chess master studying a board. "They want us scared," he said, snapping photos. "Fear makes you stupid, and stupid gets you caught. We stay smart and let them think they're winning." Silent alarms had already pinged Sheriff Tom Reynolds, but Henry had bigger plans. His phone buzzed with an unknown number. The voice on the other end was smooth, laced with menace. "Mr. Caldwell, this is Vincent Moretti. You're playing games with my investment. Sell for $100,000, or things get unpleasant. I have ways of breaking stubborn old men." Henry sipped his coffee, unfazed. "Mr. Moretti, I've faced scarier men in places that'd make you cry for your mama. Bring it on, I am bored and could use the exercise." "Oh, And I own 15% of Pinnacle Resorts, so good luck with your project. He hung up, leaving Ethan stunned. 15%? Henry hadn't mentioned that. The next 24 hours transformed the cabin into a fortress. Henry, reverting to his phantom trapper days, directed operations with military precision. Ethan installed 20 high-definition cameras with thermal imaging and night vision, linked to cloud storage and a live feed to news outlets. Motion sensors ensured no evidence would be lost, even if the equipment was destroyed. Sarah coordinated with City Hall, risking her job to funnel intel. We're not hurting anyone, Henry stressed, wiring the last camera. That'd make us criminals. But anyone who comes here with bad intentions will regret it legally and publicly. Sarah's friend tipped them off. Derek, drunk and texting, revealed a 2 a.m. attack. Right on cue, 2 black SUVs rolled up without headlights, disgorging Derek and 5 thugs in ski masks, carrying gasoline cans. Derek's hands shook, his voice caught by a parabolic microphone. Guys, maybe we shouldn't. The old man's crazy prepared, and Mom might be wrong. The lead thug, a steroid-pumped brute named Kyle, laughed. Your mommy paid us $5,000 each to burn this place. Shut up, rich boy, or we'll tell her you chickened out. Phase 1 hit as they crossed the property line. 10,000 lumen floodlights turned night into day, sirens wailed at 150 decibels, and Henry's voice boomed. Attention, criminals. You're live to 50,000 viewers worldwide. Smile for your close-up. Ethan's streaming setup switched camera angles like a Hollywood production, uploading to secure servers. The thugs froze, Kyle dropping his gas can, realizing they were exposed. Phase 2 unleashed industrial foam cannons, legal for property protection, spraying slippery retardant mixed with UV-reactive dye and pepper extract. It stung their eyes but stayed within self-defense laws, maximizing humiliation. 3 thugs tangled in fishing nets, repurposed by Henry's engineering skills, dropping their cans as they flailed. The nets, legal hunting tools, required wire cutters to escape. Phase 3 was a moat around the cabin, dug with a borrowed excavator and filled with the same quicksand-like mud from Operation Quagmire. 2 thugs, trying to flank, sank waist-deep, motion-activated fountains spraying them as speakers blared Sweet Caroline at full volume. Signs labeled it decorative water feature, caution, deep mud, ensuring legal cover. Derek, coated in foam, reached his breaking point. He fumbled for his phone, unaware Ethan had hacked it days earlier. Mom, call this off, he sobbed. Caldwell's got a military base here. We're going to jail. Margaret's response, broadcast live, was chilling. Finish the job, you failure, or don't come home. You're no son of mine if you can't burn one old man's shack. Derek collapsed, crying harder than in the mud pit, realizing his mother saw him as a tool, not a son. Then, the unexpected. FBI agents stormed the property, using the live stream as probable cause for warrants they'd held for months. The lead agent removed his mask, revealing Sarah's boss from City Hall, an undercover operative. Mr. Caldwell, he said, zip-tying Kyle, that's the most impressive civilian defense I've ever seen. Ever thought of consulting for law enforcement? Henry, sipping his coffee, smirked. I'm 72 and just wanted to fish in peace, but that's too much to ask in America. Derek, in handcuffs, spilled everything. There's more, he said, tears mixing with foam. Mom planned to poison the water supply to make homeowners sell cheap. The chemicals are in our garage, behind her fake designer bags. This elevated the case to domestic terrorism, explaining the FBI's interest. Henry placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder as the thugs were loaded into vans. We did it, son. We protected our home and exposed their network Helen's way, without becoming like them. The live stream, now at 5 million views, triggered FBI raids across 3 states, arresting 47 corrupt HOA members and dismantling Moretti's money laundering empire. They recovered $3.2 million stolen through fake fines and forced sales, revealing a decades-long conspiracy using HOAs as fronts to flip properties. Margaret's mugshot, caked in mud and foam, became the face of HOA corruption, splashed across headlines like HOA Tyrant's Muddy Defeat and Grandpa's Traps Topple Crime Empire. The dawn over Willow Lake was golden, casting a serene glow on the Caldwell cabin, now a symbol of defiance. Henry Caldwell, Ethan, and Sarah stood on the porch, watching the last police van disappear down the road. The FBI raids, sparked by their live stream, had gutted the Moretti family's criminal network, but the battle wasn't over. Margaret Kessler's schemes had unraveled, yet her unrepentant fury promised more trouble. Meanwhile, the community rallied around Henry, transforming Willow Lake from a place of fear into one of unity. But the trial, the revelations, and an unexpected twist were still to come. The courtroom in Grand Rapids was packed, the air thick with anticipation. Margaret's trial was a spectacle, her once polished facade reduced to a foam-streaked mess in the viral footage played for the jury. Derek's testimony was the linchpin. Handcuffed but composed, he detailed his mother's crimes: the acid attack, the arson plot, and the chilling plan to poison the water supply. She said it'd make people sell cheap, he admitted, voice breaking. I went along because I didn't know how to say no. His remorse was palpable, earning a nod from Henry in the gallery, who saw a flicker of redemption in the boy he'd once pitied. Margaret's defense was a disaster. Her lawyer tried to paint her as a victim of coercion, but the live-stream audio of her screaming at Derek to burn the shack silenced the room. When the judge listed her charges: racketeering, conspiracy, property destruction, attempted arson, criminal threatening, and attempted domestic terrorism, she snapped. It was supposed to be easy money. The jury struggled to keep straight faces when Derek's muddy meltdown played, one juror later admitting they bit their tongue to avoid laughing at the karma. Margaret received 10 years in federal prison, with no early release. Derek got 2 years and 500 hours of community service, tasked with helping elderly homeowners fight HOA abuse. The hired thugs faced 1 to 5 years, depending on their roles. The asset forfeiture phase dropped a bombshell. Henry's lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Linda Harper, presented documents revealing that Henry owned 15% of Pinnacle Resorts. In 1990, he and Ellen had bought penny stock as a long-shot investment. Ellen's idea: to own a piece of your enemies. Now worth $2 million. Those shares gave Henry enough voting power to block lake development forever. He'd quietly amassed proxy votes from other shareholders, a secret even Ethan didn't know. I knew they'd come for our land, Henry said, his sly smile disarming the stunned prosecutors. So, Ellen and I bought insurance, their own company. I'm donating the shares to a conservation trust to protect this lake forever. The Willow Lake HOA dissolved unanimously, with 198 of 200 households voting to ban such organizations permanently. The two holdouts, Margaret's loyalists, slunk away when their shady dealings surfaced. The community transformed, fear replaced by celebration. The quagmire became a tourist draw, raising $50,000 for veteran legal defense funds in a month. A gift shop sold "I Survived the Quagmire" t-shirts, and Henry was named honorary guardian of the lake in a tearful ceremony. All I wanted was to keep my promise to Ellen, he said. Turns out, that's what you all wanted too. Henry's fame exploded. Talk shows clamored for him, and his appearance on a late-night program became iconic. Wearing a t-shirt reading "Trap Happens" with Derek's muddy face, he demonstrated a miniature mud trap using chocolate pudding and a toy car, explaining the physics to a roaring audience. The host dubbed him America's most dangerous grandpa, legally speaking. The documentary rights sold for millions, funding the Caldwell Foundation for Property Rights, offering free legal aid to homeowners facing HOA abuse. Derek, as part of his sentence, volunteered there, surprising everyone by becoming a passionate advocate. The cabin's restoration was a labor of love. A master craftsman, studying photos of Ellen's original door, recreated "Forever Home H&E 1994 with perfect curves. Below it, in smaller letters, read, "Defended 2024 Quagmire Victory," a rallying cry for a property rights movement that inspired laws in 31 states to curb HOA power. The restoration wasn't just about fixing damagite, it was about honoring Ellen's vision while ensuring no one could threaten what she and Henry had built over 3 decades of marriage, through war, loss, and life's trials. Derek's redemption was unexpected. At the foundation, he shared his story, using the mud video as a cautionary tale. This is what happens when you let greed override conscience, he'd say, owning his humiliation. The mud washes off, but the shame lasts unless you make it right. Margaret, in prison, remained defiant, sending letters alternating between threats and pleas for money. Derek, finding purpose in his work, cut contact, building a new life among the community he'd once terrorized. Clara Thompson's senior guardians became a fixture, their rotating patrols bringing meals and stories of their own HOA battles. Ethan and Sarah, now inseparable, planned their future at the cabin. One evening, as they cleaned the porch, Sarah pulled Ethan aside. "I'm pregnant," she whispered, her eyes shining. Ethan's grin mirrored Henry's sly smile, and they agreed to name the child Ellen or Henry, depending on the gender. When they told Henry, he choked up, touching Ellen's hill. "She'd love this," he said, his voice thick. But the fight wasn't over. News broke of a corrupt HOA in Detroit targeting elderly veterans with tactics eerily similar to Margaret's fake violations, crippling fines, and intimidation. Henry's phone rang with pleas for help. Ethan glanced at Sarah, who smirked. "I'll pack the mud." Henry stood, his age showing, but his spirit unbowed. "Class is in session," he declared, as Clara insisted on joining as security. They loaded a truck labeled Detroit Operation, Quagmire 2.0, ready to teach another lesson. The truck rumbled down the highway toward Detroit, loaded with supplies labeled Quagmire 2.0. Henry Caldwell sat in the passenger seat, his Marine Corps mug in hand, while Ethan drove and Sarah reviewed legal documents. Clara Thompson, the 82-year-old firebrand of the Willow Lake Senior Guardians, rode in the back, her shotgun propped beside a cooler of casseroles. The news of a corrupt HOA targeting elderly veterans in Detroit had lit a fire under the Caldwell family. "They're using the same playbook as Margaret," Henry said, his voice steady but sharp. "Fake fines, threats, and intimidation. Time to teach them what happens when you mess with folks who've earned their peace." Back at Willow Lake, the community had become a beacon of resistance. The first annual Quagmire Festival drew thousands, transforming the quiet lakeside into a celebration of standing up to bullies. Booths sold Trap Happens merchandise, and a dunk tank raised funds for the Caldwell Foundation, with Derek Kessler, now a reformed advocate, volunteering as the target. Soaked in the same bentonite mud that had made him a meme, he grinned at the crowd. "I deserved this," he said, his humility disarming skeptics. "If my dunking helps families like the Caldwells, I'll sit here all day." Real strength isn't pushing people around, it's protecting what matters. Derek's transformation was a highlight of the festival. Once Margaret's pawn, he now worked tirelessly at the foundation, helping homeowners navigate HOA disputes. His presentations, starting with the infamous mud video, were raw and honest. "I let my mother's ambitions override my conscience," he'd say. "The shame lasts forever unless you do something positive." His work earned respect, even from Henry, who saw in Derek the potential Ellen always believed people could find. "The boy's learning," Henry told Ethan. "Sometimes, you gotta hit rock bottom or a mud pit'll figure out who you are." The festival also cemented Henry's status as a folk hero. His YouTube channel, Trap Grandpa's Lessons, hit 3 million subscribers, with weekly videos blending property law, defensive landscaping, and Vietnam stories. Ethan handled the tech, while Henry's dry humor made complex topics accessible. One video, "How to Turn Your Garden into a Legal Fortress," went viral, showing how to use roses and sprinklers to deter trespassers. Viewers loved his quip, "If your HOA hates your flowers, you're doing it right." The channel's proceeds funded veteran mental health programs, a cause close to Henry's heart. Henry's book, Trap Your Way to Freedom, A Veteran's Guide to Legal Self-Defense, topped bestseller lists. The introduction laid bare his philosophy. The real battle isn't just defending your home, it's finding peace after the war. If my story helps fund that fight, every bit of mud was worth it. The book covered everything from trespassing laws to psychological warfare through garden design, with a chapter on HOAs that became a manual for homeowners nationwide. Its success spawned a cottage industry of Caldwell-approved products, protected by Caldwell security signs. Trespassers will be trapped doormats and DIY mud trap kits with Henry's safety-focused manuals. The Detroit mission was a test of Henry's legacy. The HOA there, led by a slick operator named Victor Lang, targeted a neighborhood of aging veterans, slapping them with $3,000 daily fines for violations like peeling paint or untrimmed lawns. Many faced foreclosure, unable to pay. Henry's team arrived to find a community on edge, but their reputation preceded them. "You're the mud trap guy," an 80-year-old Navy vet named Earl shouted, shaking Henry's hand. "Show these vultures what's what." Henry smiled. "We'll do it right, Earl. No blood, just lessons." Using intel from Sarah's City Hall contacts, they uncovered Lang's ties to a more Eddie-linked developer. The playbook was identical: fabricate violations, force sales, and flip properties for profit. Henry mapped the veterans' properties, designing tailored defenses, motion sensors, legal spikes, and, of course, mud pits. Ethan live-streamed the setup, drawing millions of viewers eager for Quagmire 2.0. When Lang's goons arrived to intimidate Earl, they hit a smaller but equally effective trap. Sprinklers doused them in fish emulsion, and nets snared too. The live stream, dubbed Detroit Dunk, went viral, and Lang's HOA collapsed under public pressure within days. Back at Willow Lake, Ethan and Sarah's wedding marked the emotional pinnacle. Held at the cabin, with the new door gleaming under fairy lights, Henry officiated in his dress uniform, his voice strong. "Marriage is like a good defense," he said, looking at Ethan and Sarah. "You're stronger together, watching each other's backs, building something worth protecting for generations, like Ellen and I did." Ethan vowed to guard their love with Henry's determination, while Sarah promised to set the traps, earning laughter and tears. Clara sobbed, declaring it the best damn wedding I've ever seen. The senior guardians, now a formal group, adopted Ethan and Sarah as honorary grandchildren. Rose's presence, shotgun and all, ensured no troublemaker dared crash the event. Sarah's pregnancy, now visible, added joy. Baby Ellen or Henry would carry the Caldwell spirit. The celebration doubled as a fundraiser, with Trap Grandpa mugs selling out. The funds expanded the foundation, which now operated in 10 states, helping thousands fight HOA abuse. Henry's new mission, an online course called Home Defense 101, reached 100,000 students in its first year. Lessons ranged from understanding local laws to creating beautiful yet functional landscaping. His mantra, "Stay legal, stay smart, stay safe," resonated with homeowners tired of overreach. The course's success, paired with the book and YouTube channel, made Henry a household name, but he remained grounded. "All I wanted was to fish with Ellen's memory," he told a reporter. "But if this helps others, I'll keep teaching." The emotional peak came one quiet evening at Ellen's grave. Henry, Ethan, Sarah, and the extended family gathered, the setting sun painting the lake gold. Henry touched the headstone, his wedding ring glinting. "Our home's safe, Ellen," he said softly. "Our family's growing, and Sarah's got your fire. You'd approve, even if the mud was a bit dramatic." Ethan announced the baby's name, and Henry's tears, happy this time, flowed freely. "You did good, Grandpa," Ethan said, clapping his shoulder. "Ellen's proud." The Caldwell legacy spread. When a corrupt HOA surfaced in Ohio, Henry's phone buzzed again. Ethan grinned. "Another road trip?" Sarah, cradling her bump, smirked. "I'm packing extra mud." Henry stood, purpose in his eyes. "Class never ends," he said, as Clara loaded her shotgun. The truck rolled out, ready to defend another community, proving the Caldwell's fight was bigger than one Lakeite was a movement. The cabin stood as a testament to love and resilience, its new door a promise kept. Willow Lake thrived, free of HOA tyranny, its residents united by Henry's stand. The Quagmire Festival grew, drawing global attention, while the foundation reshaped property rights law. Derek, now a leader in HOA reform, spoke at conferences, his past a lesson in redemption. Henry, still fishing by the lake, became a symbol of what one person, armed with wits and righteousness, could achieve. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about Henry's methods? Was his use of non-lethal traps justified, or did he go too far? How would you handle injustice like HOA abuse or bullying in your own life? Share your stance, whether you agree with Henry's approach or have another perspective. Let's spark a conversation about standing up to bullies and fighting for what's right.